Hello and welcome. This is Off Grid Solitude, and my name is Joe. I live on 5 acres out here in the high deserts of Arizona. And recently, I was reading some forum articles about all the artifacts people find on their homestead, and I found that pretty interesting. I know I found some stuff here on my land. Now, one man's trash is another man's treasure, so you might look at it and think it's just junk. There's certainly nothing valuable, but I still find it pretty interesting. Here in the desert, organic matter doesn't last very long. We have termites that eat all of that, and the sun dries everything out and it just crumbles to dust. And let's not forget about the wildfires that sweep through every few years or so. So that really only leaves minerals, metals and rock and concrete, lime, and other things like that. But even with how fast everything decays, I guess the old generations were pretty messy because I find lots of stuff. There used to be a lot of mining in this area, and there still is. Nothing close by anymore. But there's some old building foundations and piles of rock dust and even some open mines in the hills, which makes me think that a lot of this junk should be mining related, but it could also be ranchers or something else in this area. I find lots of steel cans around. Not hundreds of them, but dozens. Most of them are typical soup can size, but I can tell they're older. They're not modern day cans. They don't have that ribbing on it, and the tops and bottoms look a little different, smoother as you can see. I don't know what was kept in them, but I imagine a little bit of everything, just like today, food and non-food items. But more interesting to me are these larger square cans. I don't know what they would keep in those. I imagine oils, like lubricating oils possibly. But I'm just guessing. I really have no idea. Occasionally I find remnants of barbed wire fences. Never the posts, those would get burned up in a fire or eaten by termites, but small sections of the barbed wire. I don't think they galvanized back then. I've got some larger pieces that I think are a little more interesting. There's some larger drums. Those definitely look like oil drums. I've got some car parts here, or if it's not a car, then some sort of a wagon perhaps. It looks like a seat cushion possibly, and the frame of a vehicle. And I even have a tire here. Now the vehicle frame and the tire don't look that old. Definitely in the past century, but I think in the latter half of the century, honestly, from the looks of things. I'll often sit down in random places just to encourage my goats to graze that area. And while I'm sitting there, I'll dig through the gravel a little bit. And there's certainly some interesting rocks. I'd love to get a rock tumbler someday and see what these look like polished up. And while I'm sifting through the gravel, I'll find little interesting pieces of things. I find lots of pottery. I found a few pieces of white china with the typical blue ink. You know what I'm talking about. But more common is a brown pottery with white glazing. I see lots of this here. Looks like some of it came from plates, some from cups. I don't know what else they made out of pottery like that other than dinnerware. I found this broken glass bottle, and looking closer, we can see that it's definitely been mold blown. It's not a hand blown glass by any, but it's a little bit older. It doesn't certainly doesn't look like a modern day beer bottle. It's also a lot thicker than modern day glass bottles. I think the neck of a bottle gives away most of the identifying features. It almost looks like an old milk bottle, but I don't know. Would miners bring milk bottles with them? Maybe. Was my land here a campsite for the miners where they would come and have their meals? Or maybe it was just a dumping ground where they threw anything they didn't want. Who knows? I hope to find something older, perhaps an arrowhead or a fossil of something. But I don't know, I'm sitting here in a foothill. There's nothing really interesting that would attract ancient humans or ancient animals. I imagine it could wash down from the hills, but I'm not skilled enough to find anything like that through the gravel. Fossils don't look the same they do in the ground as they do in a museum. For example, are these just really flat rocks? Or is this old pottery? I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say the small one is pottery, and the bigger one is just a conveniently shaped rock. As interesting as all this stuff is, I guess it really is junk in the end. When I've finished everything else on my to-do list, I'll go around and gather all this stuff up and haul it to a landfill, and maybe future generations can look at it and wonder about it just like I did. I find it pretty interesting to think about peoples of the past. Living here on this land and trying to homestead it, I'm aiming for a way of life that's more similar to what they had than what we have now. So I bet there's a few tips and tricks I can learn from them. Have any of you found any interesting discoveries from the past like that? Let me know in the comments. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. And I'll see you in the next video.